putting this up there with Friday, with Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, like my favorite like comedies, Tropic Thunder. I'm putting The Blackening in there as some of my favorites. Now, hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be reviewing the new comedy horror, The Blackening. Y'all, I gotta say, I'm not really a comedy fan. Like, I have some gems that I really enjoy, but overall, it's like my bottom genre. I just really don't hardly ever find nothing really funny. Y'all, this movie was hilarious. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review on The Blackening. Now, if you are not familiar, The Blackening is a movie about 7 friends who end up going to a cabin for Juneteenth celebrations, and they end up stalked by a killer. Kind of a typical slasher horror setup. Now, I felt like this was I'm talking about brilliantly done. But I will say, for me, this movie is more satire, comedy on horror, and less like actual horror comedy. We get some pretty, still good, I still enjoyed it, but pretty typical horror slasher elements. But it felt more like a comedy with a horror setup, horror backdrop. It didn't really feel like horror. But man, as a comedy, which I'm kind of considering this just like a comedy movie, brilliant. And one of the top things for me that really carries this movie is the ensemble cast. I feel like this was literal supreme perfect casting. I literally enjoyed every single solitary character. I felt like everybody got a chance to shine. Every single character did or said something that I laughed at. There was something about every character that I enjoyed. Now, I will say, when the movie first opens, I enjoy it. I like this opening sequence where we get the couple that has invited us all to the cabin. They arrive early to set everything up. And one thing that I enjoy with this movie, there are a lot of references. Some references some people may not get, some you might get. There are moments where, for example, characters will like say song lyrics. Even the reference with the whole Jim Crow Monopoly game, as they call it in the movie. If you're familiar with Sambo and blackface and that whole thing, that's a reference you might get. But for me, the references in the movie, while well done, are the types of references where even if you don't get the references, I feel like you will still find the moments and everything very humorous. Like, I feel like even if you don't get the references, you'll get the elements of them like in the movie amongst the story and everything and what's happening. Now, we start the movie off with, what was our character's name that we started Morgan and Sean. We start the movie off with the couple Morgan and Sean. They're at the cabin early and they're setting everything up, and they end up, we see this door and it has a little sign on it that says game room. Now, the elements with this game was very much giving me bitch ass. Did y'all see that black horror movie last year called Bitch Ass? If you haven't watched it, it is a so bad it's good kind of like a horror movie. Love Bitch Ass. But Bitch Ass also was a premise with a horror movie where black folks had to play games. So this movie was very much giving me bitch ass. Now, they go down and they find this game, and the element with this game is hilarious. Like, I want to play this game in real life minus the like death. We got some really funny moments when it came to the game. So basically, the game in the movie that they find, their little Jumanji moment, we find this board game called the Blackening. And with the jokes and the satire of the movie, there's a lot of, I guess I won't say a lot of, but there is some social commentary. There's social commentary in the movie, and I don't feel like it's preachy or heavy-handed in any way. It's kind of one of those, if you get it, you got it. If you didn't get it, I guess it's just not for you. Commentary on like being black enough, commentary on, being black biracial, and I feel like it was all very well done. Now, some stuff with the game, like the questions. Now, this first question that the couple gets wrong, if you get the question wrong, you die. So, also kind of giving you Scream vibes. This first couple not being able to answer this question irked my nerves. So the question that the first couple get, what was this couple name, y'all? It's a lot of characters, and I'm bad with names, so I'm gonna have to keep looking at my notes. Morgan and Sean. The first question that Morgan and Sean get is, name a black character, or name three black characters that survived a horror movie. Y'all, this is actually so freaking easy. Like, this is an easy ass question. First of all, who not gonna think of the triple double OG Keith David in The Thing? Like, everybody should think Keith David in the movie The Thing. But you also have Rod Digger in 13 Ghosts. You also have LL Cool J twice. LL Cool J in Halloween H2O. LL Cool J in Deep Blue Sea. You have Loretta Devine in Urban Legend. Like, come on, man. Like, you got quite a few black people that done survive horror movies. Like, it was just irking my nerves that they end up saying a movie and saying the black characters that died, but in the same movie they reference there's a black character that lived. So the answer they give is Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps in Scream 2. Baby, they died first. Like, they literally are the first people to die in Scream 2, and y'all named them as people that lived in the horror, but simultaneously Dwayne Martin survives and lives to the end of Scream 2. Now, granted, he don't necessarily go through the movie and survive. He dips out and comes back. But still, that's a black person that survived in the horror movie. His survival was getting the heck up out of Dodge City until all the killing stopped. But that irked my nerves so bad that they did not get that. But this opening sequence was very enjoyable for me. Now, don't go into this really wanting like horror or good kills or anything along those lines. Go into it for a comedy. And when the boyfriend Sean gets killed, he gets killed first, and he like, run, nigga. Like, it's so, I felt like the humor was spot on. And when I tell y'all, I don't be finding nothing funny. I was dying. I was cracking up. I also felt like it was very relatable. There's a moment when the friends get to the cabin, and the character of King, he married to a white woman, right? And his friend, who was Namdi, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He was like, so you still, a slave working for the white man, or a slave to, what did he say exactly? So the friend Namdi says to King, who is married to a white woman, you still a slave for the white man? And he like, yo, don't be calling, y'all gonna stop calling my wife the white man. Y'all, anybody who has been around black folk with one black friend is like dating or married to a white person, that is so real. The whole calling them the white man, it was so much humor in the movie that was just so relatable. It reminded me of the growing up black memes and stuff, where it's like, damn, we all kind of grew up that way. Like, that's how the humor felt. Like, dang, this is happening in other groups. Like, other groups of black folk is saying the same stuff and different things like that. And also some of the humor that was really good with the game. All the humor with the game was motherfucking on point. So there's a moment where the group is answering questions from the game, and it's a multiple choice question. And the question is, who is Sojourner Truth? A, B, C. And C was like, who is Sojourner Truth? Harriet Tubman. Like, it was so stupid. It was also one question in the game of like, with the Black National Anthem. It was like everybody know the first verse to the Black National Anthem. So you gotta sing the second verse. And then one character is like, well shoot, I don't even know the first verse. Like, it was so hilarious. And again, relatable and so real. And then there was another question of what does NAACP stand for? Which I feel like everybody should know, but it was a multiple choice question. What does NAACP stand for? And it was like, niggas at Applebee's cooking pasta. It was so, like, I was cracking the hell up. Like, I have not laughed this much in like a modern comedy movie or modern movie. Like, I can't even recall when. Like, I was literally just laughing the entire movie. Now, I will say, after that first opening sequence with Sean and with the couple, my expectation was I was like, oh shoot, this kind of, because you have the proverbial introducing the characters, they're on their way to the cabin. And for me personally, this is just a moment in horror movies, the setup, the introduction of the characters. It's just a very typical moment that I'm going to say 7 times out of 10, it's never really anything very spectacular. And it was no different here. We get the friends. What were their names? We got Dwayne, Lisa, and Allison in the car riding to the cabin. I really didn't enjoy this scene. I didn't enjoy the conversation. It just was very lackluster to me. Then we are introduced to the character of Shanika and Clifton. Shanika pulls up to this gas station or corner store, and she goes in, and that's when she sees Clifton. And I actually enjoyed this, but still, again, nothing very spectacular. But then once we get to the cabin and we get introduced to King and Namdi and some of the other characters, we all get together. This is the moment for me when the movie really takes off. And I feel like the movie had really good pacing. It was to the point. The runtime was very appropriate and very well utilized. Now, like I said, I really loved all the characters, and I loved the play on and commentary on the stereotypical characters and different things. There's a moment where the killer is first coming after us and King gets a gun, and Namdi is like, I knew you had a gun, and King is like, man, nigga, you profiling me. Like just certain moments was so freaking good. Now, I will say, one thing that I wish they didn't do is the characters pretty much do the standard slasher fare. Like, they make dumb decisions. Everything the characters in this movie do is the same thing we've seen characters in horror slasher situations do. And I wish they did something different with that, because one thing that I feel is very universal is black people be watching white folk in horror movies like, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't know. Black folk wouldn't do that. So I get it, how they ended up playing this out. For example, the moment when we have the proverbial, we need to split up. And that is the one thing that all black folk, nigga, ain't nobody splitting up. I like how they did it, how they played on the black biracial girl, like, this ain't my white side, y'all, but this is the best way we gonna survive. And I get it, I enjoyed it, but again, I wish we were a little more inventive in certain areas. Now, another moment where I wish we were more inventive is when the group gets together. I call it off the bat that Clifton is the villain, and I even call his motive, which I couldn't guess the motive precise, but I got the motive. I said I bet it's Clifton. I bet that's the villain, because for one, Nobody knew the nigga name. Ain't nobody really know who he was. And I was like, did he just invite himself here? Like, he don't even seem like he really part of the group. I was like, it's something fishy going on. There is a portrait of the friend group that I kept trying to really look at, because I was like, is Clifton in that picture? I bet he ain't in that picture. And I said, I bet you he's going to have a Carrie bullying, I wasn't part of the cool group type of motive. And that's exactly what happens pretty much. Now, that was very easy to call and predictable. And also his motive when he has his Scooby-Doo villain reveal at the end, it was kind of silly. But again, it's a comedy.
Okay, so as I'm sitting here editing, I'm thinking about the movie, and I don't want to just solidify my opinion that, like, the motive wasn't... Look, the motive was asinine. But at the same time, I do feel like the Spades motive is the blackest ish ever. Like, of course, Clifton Square Behind has his entire life derailed over a game of spades. Like, that's some black-ish. But it did feel, as you watching the movie, like, wait, so that's it? Like, that's why you got all these niggas together? So, yeah, I wish, like, for the horror part of the movie, I wish we would maybe have gotten a motive that was way more sinister and dark. But like I said, this isn't really like a horror. We don't really have like real true horror elements in here. Like, we have some horror is kind of a backdrop to the movie. It's pretty much a comedy.
But those are just a few moments where I wish we were more inventive. But honestly, it did not hurt my enjoyment of the film. Now, all the friends are together at the cabin, but it irked my nerves that we weren't really on edge, like, where's our two friends? Because they pretty much was saying like, oh, well, they went to do something, they was gonna come back. But baby, we had time to get to the cabin, bust some spades, make this crazy Kool-Aid alcoholic drink, and our friends still ain't here. I feel like that was very odd. Like, I would have been like, hold on, it's a lot of time that has passed. Where are our two friends? And I also like with the humor how certain stuff came up in mentioning, like what I just mentioned with the Kool-Aid. King makes this crazy Kool-Aid alcoholic beverage with like a ton of sugar. And they telling him like, you gonna get a cramp. So we get to the part where the group splits up because the killer ends up telling us, I'll give you 3 minutes if you can run out of here, if you can make it. Some folks want to just stay in the house. Some folks want to run. King, Allison, and Shanika run. King out in the woods, he end up fighting the mass killer and he winning, but then he catches a cramp. Like, the cramp finally hits him. So that was very humorous. And for me though, my standout favorite character was Clifton and what was the gay kid's name? Dwayne. Clifton and Dwayne. And Shanique was my favorite too, because Shanique very much was feeling like me. Like, she was giving me vibes. But Clifton was my number one favorite because Clifton was giving some good ass funny like comments, one-liners, and the theater I was in, it was quite a few people. Like, I'm used to going to the theater and having, like, honestly, a lot of times I have the whole theater to myself, or it's only like 2-3 other people. Literally, when I saw The Blackening, that's the most people I've seen in a movie theater in a minute. I went to see The Flash and there wasn't even that many people in there. And that was one thing that for me takes away from my experience of a movie. When I see a comedy in a movie theater, there were moments where the crowd is laughing, so I couldn't hear certain things being said. So that kind of annoys me. I miss certain things because, you know, the crowd was laughing. And honestly, I missed stuff because I was laughing, so I couldn't really hear like the next thing people said. But Clifton was saying some funny ass one-liners that for me would have been easy to miss. this because he would just kind of slyly and subtly throw something in amongst like a situation that's happening. So his comment wasn't the focal point, but if you caught it, you caught it. And it was just feeling like everything he was saying, I was like dying laughing. But Dwayne also and Shanique also had some really good comedic moments, but really there was something funny about every single solitary character. There was something everybody said or did that I laughed at. And okay, so the group is together, we're hanging out, we busted some spades. It is a very relatable moment where Clifton wants to play spades, but he don't know how to play. He needs somebody to teach him. And anybody know, child, black folk ain't got time to be trying to teach you how to play no spades. Like, spades is serious business, and we ain't got time to be sitting here trying to teach nobody how to play. Now, we end up going down to the basement because the lights cut off, and King wants to go find the breaker and switch or whatever, and light switch or whatever, and this was also some humorous little comments being made. Dwayne makes a humorous comment when they're trying to go through the dark, like, I don't know this house. And we get to the basement door, which was locked earlier and also did not have the game room sign on it when the rest of the friends get here. Now the sign is on it and the door is unlocked. And we get to the basement, they find the game. Now, this is something I'm confused on. The little Sambo character in the middle of the little Jumanji game was talking to them. How the hell we did that? Like, how did we do that? I don't know how we did that. I don't know how, like, the Clifton and the two brothers he get to help him. I don't know how we managed to get the game to talk. But anyway, we get a great moment where, like, they're playing the game. Some of the questions I told y'all. We get out of the basement, and like I said, King gets his gun. King ends up getting hit with the arrow. He drops his gun. Namdi picks up the gun, and Namdi holding the gun like this, and Clifton turns the gun up like that. It was so hilarious, y'all. Like, I was dying. Now, the group ends up, now it was also, like I said, I called it that Clifton was the villain, and you could also call it that it was multiple people. Now, I didn't know who the masked folks were that was helping Clifton, but you could tell it was multiple of them. Now, we have a scene when the friends first arrive, and King is the only one there. This white cop, you know, is trying to write him a ticket for trespass and telling him he's not supposed to be there, not listening to him because they kind of rented the place, you know, like an Airbnb. And we got a really humorous moment with that. But then we get a moment where he pops back up as like a red herring. So the killer is after us. The friends have split up. And Namdi, what was the other girl name? Namdi, Dwayne, and Lisa stayed back at the house. And what was his, when they was calling him something white, what was they calling him? Detective White, Cop White. Okay, I don't see him listed on the cast on IMDb. I don't know why he not listed, but he was like Detective White, Officer White, and I thought they was just calling that man that, but then when he on the radio, he's referring to himself as Officer White, so I guess that was the man's name. But anyway, he pops up and we outside with our weapons, and he pop up. We don't know whether to trust him or not. And I'm like, baby, we not trusting this man. So this is also a good moment where it's humorous and social commentary. He's like, I'm one of the good ones, and about being invited to the cookout. And then they're like, oh, you taking it a little too far when he started talking about, they say they split up, and he like, but y'all black. And that's when they're like, hold on now. And they still going back and forth about whether or not to trust him. And he takes them to his car, but he like hear a noise or see something, he go check it out, tell them to stay in the car, and he get back to the car like, let me in, but they don't trust him, and he end up getting killed. Like, damn, okay, we should have trusted you. Now, along with some of the like typical, you know, slasher fare that I said the characters normally do that we got here, the group that goes into the woods, the one thing that irked me so bad when I watch horror movies is when we're trying to run for our life and we get that person that's like, I can't, guys, I can't go. I be like, if you don't get up, like you want to die. We get that moment from Allison. We're in the woods trying to get away and she's like, I'm gonna just take a break here. But it's because she high. And I did not know Adderall. You would have thought she was like, I don't know, snorting cocaine. Like she was high. I did not know you get like high off Adderall. Like, ain't that for like ADD? Now we get to the Scooby-Doo villain reveal, and it was a few moments that was very much giving Saw. When we have the TV, you know, video come on, that was obviously giving Saw. And then when we go down into the basement, we have Allison and King who stay upstairs, and we get the rest of the crew going into the basement because we kill one guy out in the woods, and then Lisa, I think her name was, she ends up killing the guy back at the house when we all meet back up. And we know that there are multiple people. And she's like, we already proved we can, you know, take care of ourselves. Let's just go figure out the last person. They go into the basement. And we see the dead cop and dead Clifton because we got a question of, you got to pick who the blackest. And we end up really picking Clifton, not because he the blackest, because we don't really know this nigga. Like, he's square. We ain't really ever vibe with him like that in the first place. And then when he makes his argument for why he not the blackest, he say some ish that we like, oh yeah, hell nah, it's gotta be you. You the one finna get killed. So Clifton supposed to be dead, which I knew he wasn't dead. That, like I said, I knew it was him. So he's sitting in there, and it was very much giving me the first Saw movie when Jigsaw was sitting in the room with us the whole time. And y'all, so many jokes landed in this basement scene. So Clifton reveals himself, and throughout the movie, we've had moments where like black folk look at each other with a certain look and you like know what the other person is saying to you. The way they did it in the movie, it's like they were talking telepathically, but it was a play on like being able to just give your homegirl a look, give your homeboy a look, and you just know what each other's saying. Now it's a moment where Dwayne is doing this with Lisa and he's doing it with Namdi. And then all of a sudden, Clifton do a face at him like, nigga, yeah, I got everything y'all just said. It was so funny. But we're able to kind of get the weapon from, he has a bow and arrow. We get the bow and arrow from Clifton. It's a struggle we fighting. And upstairs, Allison and King are like, well, they looking at the little TV. They see it's Clifton. They're like, well, if Clifton was with us, who was controlling and locking the doors and turning off the lights? So they go to the dead person and get the little remote out of his pocket. But we don't know what the switches mean. So we're trying to unlock the door, but we end up hitting the switch, cutting the lights off. So when the lights get cut off, Dwayne tussles and fights with Clifton, right? Shanique has the bow and arrow, and they're trying to give her direction because she's trying to shoot in the dark. They're trying to give her direction so that she shoots Clifton and does not shoot Dwayne. Baby, this was so funny because she talking about Dwayne, say something gay so I don't hit you. And his response was so funny, and I'm so mad I cannot think verbatim what he said, but he's like, that's ignorant. Like, why would you say that to me? Something he like said, it was just so hilarious. And she's like, oh, there you go, and end up being able to shoot Clifton. It was so hilarious. But like I said earlier, I wish Clifton's motive wasn't so, not even just generic, but silly. So I was right about the whole like Carrie-esque, like I wasn't a part of this group motive. So pretty much Clifton knew them in college. He never drank alcohol. They were at a Juneteenth celebration and he was trying to, play spades with them. And he was talking about how he always loved to play games, but the one thing he could never get a handle on is spades. And he ended up not throwing down the club when he actually did have a club. So he ended up reneging and everybody went in on him to the point that Lisa tells him, nigga, your black card revoked. He got so disturbed by being told your black card revoked that he drinks for the first time in his life, and doesn't just drink, gets pissy drunk, doesn't just get drunk, drives drunk, and ends up killing a woman and going to jail for 4 years. And I'm like, baby, you was in jail for 4 years and you still ain't learned how to bust some spades? Like, that was the trippy part. Like, what niggas do in jail? Like, lift weights and play cards. Like, you still don't know how to play spades. But it really was nonsensical. Like, you mad at us because he's mad that in those 4 years they're successful and his whole life derailed. You're mad that your life derailed because you chose, they did not pour alcohol down your throat. Like, he was acting like, y'all ever saw that old horror movie, something about a train with Jamie Lee Curtis when they pulled like a prank on this kid? Like, he acting like they did like a prank on him and they poured alcohol down his throat. Like, yeah, they clowned you, but you're the one that chose to go drink alcohol and drive drunk. Like, why is you mad at us? But it just felt very silly. But again, it did not hurt my enjoyment because I was just sitting and enjoying it as a comedy. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but I do wish they would have elevated the actual story, the decisions the characters were making, and the motive of Clifton. It's okay. Honestly, I really feel like it's okay that it was easy to call that it was Clifton. And hey, maybe some people aren't going to call that it was Clifton. It was just obvious to me because he was glaringly, obviously not like a core part of the group. That's why I was like, oh, it's him. But to me, that being able to call that is Clifton, that does not hurt the enjoyment, but I feel like it would have really elevated the horror aspect of this being a horror comedy if he had maybe a more devious, dubious, like motive for all of this. We got something a little more sinister. And then it was also nonsensical, the brothers that he got involved. Because it was very much giving, these are some white racists, like they were twins. They had a Confederate flag in their basement. They had this Sambo game. Well, I don't know, maybe Clifton brought the game. I don't know, child, but it was in their basement. But they was just very much giving me racist vibes because we see them at the top of the movie when Shanique and Clifton go to the little corner store and he like eyeballing her at the store. But why would they agree to kill 7 people for Clifton for $100 for each person? Like, that's it. Like, I don't know, that feels very nonsensical to me. Like, you're gonna have to cough up a lot more money than that for me to kill folk. Like, that movie, You're Next, old boy hired people to kill his family because he was getting like a big inheritance. Like, I just feel like anytime you see folk kill for somebody else, like being hired, you getting some real money. $100, which was also a good joke from Dwayne when they get find the piece of paper in the brothers' pockets with their initials and $100 next to it. But overall, this for me, top notch. Love this movie. I was literally, when I say dying laughing, I feel like it was unapologetically black, blackety, black. And I feel like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. If you don't get it, then it just ain't for you. But this is definitely, for me, going down as a comedy classic in my opinion. Like I'm putting this in there. When Clifton was like he hadn't seen Friday, when he was trying to give his argument for why he ain't the blackest, I'm putting this up there with Friday, with Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, like my favorite like comedies, Tropic Thunder. I'm putting the Blackening in there as some of my favorites. I would see this movie again. I literally walked out of the theater thinking I literally want to just see this again immediately, like back to back. It was that funny. And like I said, with the laughter of the crowd, it was just certain things being said that I missed. Now, we got an amazing like ending, like credit scene. So we all survive. And that's something else that I love is the tagline for this movie, we can't all survive. I actually feel like that would have been a fly-ass title for the movie. What did I just say? We can't all survive. Sorry, y'all, I said that wrong. Okay, let's try that again. I love the tagline for this movie, we can't all die first. And I actually feel like that would have been a fly-ass title. We can't all die first. Loved it. And typically, I get annoyed looking at a horror or slasher and like, I'd be like, why so many people survive? Which again, like I said, don't take this as a horror, but I love how they take that trope of the black people die first, flip it on its head. Well, baby, everybody survive. Obviously, minus the first two friends, but like the core group that we follow that are actually fighting for their lives and trying to survive, everybody lives. And I love that. Like you go from niggas die first and hardly ever any black people survive a horror to the core group that we get fighting for their lives throughout the whole movie all survive. So I love that. And I also, y'all, the ending joke landed so motherfucking well. Now, we done survived. All the villains are dead. We sitting outside the cabin like, child, how we gonna call for help? How will we call for help, call the police, and not get our ass shot? So we trying to figure out, how do we call for help and not get our asses shot? And that's when Dwayne is like, I got it. I got the perfect plan. We call the fire department. They don't have guns. We won't get shot. Next thing you know, they get sprayed with the fire hose, with the water hose. Y'all. And that's how the movie ends. Mother freaking spot on. Again, some social commentary in there. And I have literally said that same thing when I watch horror movies. Like, I don't want to end up like the black guy in Night of the Living Dead. I survive and I get shot at the end. Like, I literally always think that, like, if some ish go down, I'm not trying to survive and then get my black ass shot. So, again, good social commentary, not heavy-handed, not preachy. If you get it, you get it. Spot on comedic timing, amazingly funnily. I don't know what a funnily is. Amazingly funny, well-written script, in my opinion. You don't get like a ton of like character development, but I feel like you get enough personality from all the characters where you really end up liking all the characters, rooting for all the characters, and wanting them to survive. I was getting scared because it was feeling like King was gonna die because baby got shot with the arrow twice. But I thoroughly enjoyed The Blackening, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I mean, I really loved it. I don't have a ton of complaints, and the few complaints I have are not complaints that brought down the enjoyment of my theatrical experience. This, for me, was some of the most fun I've had at the movie theater this year. I cannot recommend this enough. It was so funny. And take that from someone who don't really find it funny. Like, I remember trying to see Bridesmaids because everybody was raving about it. I didn't think it was funny. I tried to see The Hangover because everybody was raving about it. Didn't find it funny. Like most comedy movies that people be raving about, I really don't find funny. But I was dying, and I feel like I just miss like that black humor that we get that we have gotten that I feel like we don't really get very much of. You know, we used to always have the black fun, you know, comedy sitcoms and the black comedy movies. And I feel like there's a void for that the Blackening filled. And I hope that this movie is successful and just ushers in more smart, entertaining black comedies like this one. Thank you so much for watching this video, for supporting the channel. Let me know in the comments, how did you feel about The Blackening? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Because man, when I tell you, this might end up being one of my top 10 favorite movies of 2023. Like, I'm calling it now. Love it. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.